So, the case, as you all know, is about this firm on Wall Street that does research in a variety of industries. And we've got, sorry, my staple just came out and my papers went everywhere. So we've got Stephen, who is the director of research at this investment banking firm, and his star semiconductor analyst, Peter, has just bailed on them. He was with the company for a long time, but he's left now, and now Stephen is trying to figure out, with this big project coming up, or a big deal coming up in the near future, what he's going to do to replace Peter. In the interim, he's got Peter's junior analyst, Rena, sort of just moving the ship along, but he's also interested in interviewing some other people to see if he can't get another star. And the star, you know, we all know as we read the case, means that they've been ranked by this group that, you know, determines based on performance whether or not somebody is a star or an up-and-comer or something like that. So he's working with a headhunter to get some good candidates lined up for interviews, and he's just trying to make his decision about the best way to move forward. So first of all, let me ask the question, were you guys surprised that the due date was different for the write-up?
As in...
Yeah, so I think what was happening, so at the beginning of the year, when they had all those iLearn problems, the due dates were at the end of the week, but he graded mine down because it was late, and I didn't realize that it was late. And so I talked to him about it, and he said that, or it was the TA, so it was the TA that I talked to, that he said that they're always due on Tuesday. I don't know why they changed it, so I would just submit it now and just maybe make a note. If you haven't submitted it, just make a note that the due date had changed on there, because I thought it was dumb that they graded down. Like, I got a B+ instead of an A because it was turned in before the due date said on the computer, but that was for the earlier, before they changed it to the, you know, whatever. But
so right now it says it's not due till the 28th. Do you think it was really supposed to have been due yesterday?
Yeah.
Because I'm not done with it yet.
I would just put it on there, like write on a note in there.
He expects us to write that in 2 days. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, we're all busy, I think.
Yeah, totally. That's why, yeah. At the beginning, I was confused because he kept saying, make sure they're on time, you know, and I always turned them in before the due date because it was the end of the week, you know, so I'd turn them in on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. And he kept saying, make sure you turn them in on time, and I got a B+ on one instead of an A, and I'm assuming that's why, because he put the note, make sure they're on time. Yeah. And so now I've just made it a point to do it on Monday and Tuesday to make sure that I don't get any markdowns. So I would maybe write that in as a note, or just email the teacher and be like, hey, this due date's different. If it affects your grade, it might not even affect your grade, so I'm not sure. But yes, okay. I thought it was weird.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to do in 2 days, especially because, you know, when you have a 20-page case to read, and I have to read it a couple of times just to make sure I get it all. But
right. That's why I assumed. I was like, maybe. Oh, sorry, Mark. I just assumed that maybe it was because it was a 27-page at first, but then I was like, I'm just gonna turn it in, make sure I get it done sooner than later, just in case they just messed up.
Yeah. And I also think that it helps to meet with the group first and discuss it, and then do the write-up, just because there's things that I might not think about, but you know, somebody else.
But on the actual like write-up directions, it says due Tuesday at midnight. So that's why I think that the actual due date is wrong on iLearn, because every you know, discussion case write-up says due Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So. Yeah.
I'll send him an email just so you guys. I'll copy you guys all in it, and I'm just gonna say, hey, we had a group discussion tonight, and there's some confusion about due dates, because it said iLearn says that it's due on this day, and your directions say a different thing. And then I'll make my arguments as to why it should be the end of the week.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Welcome, Brian, by the way, too.
You what?
Thank you. Sorry, I was a little late.
Oh yeah, hi Brian.
How we doing?
Hey.
Okay, so now we've summarized the case. So now we're supposed to discuss the pros and cons in great depth about all of the candidates. So, does anybody want to go first?
I'll go. I have my favorite candidate.
Okay.
I like Sonia, or however you say her name. I just love everything about her interview and her resume, because she is already recognized as an up and coming person, level 2. Then I don't know. I just feel like she has so much potential. And what I wrote in my paper is just basically how they need to invest in the long term. They can't just plan for 3 months and like, oh, we have this one really big client. Well, if you can't handle that, then that's already a problem. But you need to invest in the long term. That's my whole point. And I think that she has the qualifications for that. And she's willing to make it work. She already has done that with her business right now.
Okay.
And going off with like Daniel's point, I think that she also she also wants to be part of the organization. Like she wants to involve herself, build relationships, and be part of the culture. Which for him, it's really important. You know, Steven, like is that his name, Steven?
Yes.
Steven wants to find somebody who will care about the company's culture and that will be able to maintain it and build on it. So that's also good about her.
I would add to that. I would just my first thought was to not hire a star, and kind of like what Daniel and Marble said is that I would just echo that they should focus on up and coming stars so that they can create the star that they want. They can kind of mold that person into and create whatever kind of star they want, I guess. And then I also was reading in the Harvard Business Review. There's an article, The Risky Business of Hiring Stars, and it states in there that companies should focus on growing talent within the organization, and then do everything possible to retain the stars that they create. And they also said that they observed that the top performers in all those groups were more, or I guess in groups that they were looking at, were more like comets than stars. They were blazing successes for a while, but quickly faded out when they left one company for another. And so they're awesome for the first 15 years, but once they feel like they want to move or they aren't getting the treatment that they want or whatever, they move to a company and they're less likely to give it their all, because then they're just looking for the next best thing, I guess. And so that they're just moving around a lot. And so I feel like both of those stars I wouldn't have chosen. I would have chosen Seth or Sonia.
Okay. What do you think about Brian?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what Jamie said. And Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about that most of the level 5 leaders came within the company itself. So yeah, definitely would not hire the first 2 guys. I think it's, I forget their names, David and Gerald, I think.
Yeah, David and Gerald.
Yeah, those ones were definitely out just based on their interviews. Wasn't impressed with them at all. Was impressed with Sonia. But I also made a case to promote Rena, just where she's in the organization. She's been there for 3 years. She's on top of the current project, the Power Chip project, and she loves what she's doing. I think just kind of those factors kind of just led me that even though there is some mixed controversy on whether or not she is the greatest leader at this point, I think she has that potential because she is already within the firm. And I think Steven would get some pretty hefty feedback if that was the case, if he did choose to hire or promote Rena. But just based on that data from Jim Collins and what Jamie had mentioned, I think it is smart to keep Rena on, and if the promotion doesn't come right now, maybe that's all right, but I think continue to develop her into that star that she can become.
So what were you guys' hesitations about David? He was the one that was well-seasoned. He'd been around for a long time. He'd been ranked really highly for a long time. he seemed to have, he was, all into mentoring people below him. He seemed to appreciate the team collaborative type of environment. So he had kind of the right culture background going for him. But what were your concerns about him?
Mine was probably mainly, I don't want to sound ageist, but I really do feel like he had given so much to his other companies that it would be hard for him at this point in his career to just show up and be like, this is what I just put all 100% into it. And I think he even kind of displays that attitude when he says, I really want to do what I want to do. I want to do specific things, and I want to choose that. And instead of, just being open to whatever projects are available or whatever's open. And so I feel like, yeah, because of that, he just wouldn't be the best candidate for what they need.
Okay. And we're supposed to talk about all of the candidates. So what do you guys think about Gerald? He was the one that showed up 15 minutes late for the interview. And
didn't apologize.
And didn't apologize.
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Right.
No, I personally just felt like he was the opposite of what you would look for in a good candidate. And sort of it set the tone for the rest of the interview, the fact that he was late and didn't apologize. Because it's understandable if you're late, but you definitely want to make a good impression and apologize and have a good return.
Talked about how he fired somebody on his staff in the middle of a presentation, and he was like nonplussed about it, just like, yep, I fired him, no big deal. Had to
bragged about it.
Exactly, totally bragged about it.
Now I remember.
Yeah, so I definitely think he would have a problem fitting in with the team culture that they've got going at their place.
But on the other side, it looks like he's just not looking at the company, like at the people side, but looking at his qualifications for the job. It looks like he's, taking off, he's advancing, and he's moving really quick, and he's making his way up the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So he's good at what he does. Maybe he's not the best people person, but he's definitely good at his job.
Right.
But I don't think he's the best fit for the fact that Steven seems to really stress the importance of somebody that will care about the company, will care about the culture and the people, and doesn't look like he's that person.
Okay, what do you guys think about Seth?
I felt like Seth was an okay person. Like he would be great, I think, with the job, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about for the most part. It says that he needs help, or he needs to improve on expressing himself clearly. But other than that, I think he's overall would be a good candidate because they can mold him to be something, and he's going to be, it says, to a number 2 or whatever that was, rated in the magazine or whatever as a star, an upcoming star. But he just didn't have that pop, or I don't know how, just reading it, I guess, he didn't have the same personality traits, I guess, as Sonia did, and she just stood out to me, and I feel like Seth just kind of like, he was good, but he's not like amazing,
Yeah. What did you think about the part where they talked about how he was too eager to please? Did anybody remember reading that part?
Yeah, it seems like Seth is just so focused on kind of himself, his own promotions, his own status, and everything that way. And it looks like he'll kind of do anything to get there. Yeah, and you mentioned that, like, he'll do those 12 to 15-hour days just to make himself look better than everyone else. He's staying longer than everyone else. And anyways, just not quite the teamwork, culture-oriented guy, I think, that RSH is looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've talked about everybody now.
Can I just add one more thing about Seth, though?
Yeah.
I really do think Seth would be a good candidate as far as loyalty goes, because it says that he's very loyal, and that's kind of what they're looking for in RSH. But then again, I don't know. So that was just another reason why I put Seth not quite up there with Sonia, but right below, like he would be my second, But anyway, okay.
Another comment too.
Yeah.
What was interesting is those that were really, I guess, the ones that knew they were stars, they all asked about compensation.
Oh yeah.
And some of them wanted to work alone as well, and some of them wanted to like the team aspect. But what I noticed was those that were wanting to like progress their career, and they were at the beginning of theirs, they were more willing to like compromise, and they knew they'd be paid well, and so I don't know, I just think that's a really good quality. Is in an interview, it's like the last thing you ever want to do is ask compensation. Let them bring it up to you, and then because you'll get a job offer, and that's when you can decide if you want it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it was just a thought, something I saw.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so now everybody has to say who. I think some people said who they would hire, but let's go around and get a definitive answer. Ryan?
Yeah, I will start. I think at this point I would hire Rena. I would promote her as senior analyst. So.
Okay. Daniel?
Can I hear a reason on that? I want to hear it.
I think just for those things, that one, she's already with the company, she knows the program, she'll be able to finish up the power chip case effectively. She loves what she's doing, and I think she's moldable. I think she'll be able to be molded into the level 5 leader that Stephen wants her to become, whereas it could be more difficult with some of the others. I mean, I think Sonia's up there with a close second, in my opinion, just because she has those same traits, those same capabilities. I think I'm just reminded when Warren Buffett hires anyone, he just looks for someone who's honest and hard working. He doesn't really care about resumes, he doesn't care about grad school, et cetera, et cetera. He just wants those 2 traits, and I think Rena fits that.
I have a follow-up question to that, though. How do you balance that with the fact that his counterparts don't think she's qualified at all, and they don't want her to be in that position? So how do you buy them into that?
Yeah, great question. I think part of that will come over time. I did notice that it was kind of, from what I saw, and I may be wrong, I probably need to read it over again, but I kind of noticed that some people felt that, she was really on top of everything. She needed to be a little more assertive, was kind of the main qualification that she was lacking on, which I think would come over a short period of time. I think if Stephen showed her how much confidence that Stephen has in her, and if Stephen really was the first one to buy in and say, hey, Rena, you're the one for the job, we've thought about it, we've decided not to hire any of the stars because we know that you're the star, I think that would bring out that assertion in her and that confidence to be able to do what she needs to do. So.
Cool.
That's my thought.
Sorry, I just had to ask because we didn't really talk much about her.
Yeah.
That's good. My vote is Sonia. So.
I didn't hear. What did you say?
My vote is Sonia.
Okay. Jamie?
Okay. Bright, you have a good point. I didn't really think about Rena. And Sonia was my choice until I heard Bryant's argument. And I really think that she might be the best candidate because she is already in the position. She's already been with the company for 3 years, whereas Sonia hasn't. She's been with a regional, and there's always that toss-up that Stephen was having a difficulty with, that she might not be able to make the jump from a regional firm to a Wall Street. So, and she's got 2 children, and so that's hard. She doesn't want to travel. Rena can travel. She's already doing it. So I honestly don't know. I don't know. I would probably hire Sonia because that's what just I have in my mind right now. But if I were to think about it and actually, because I just hadn't thought about Rena this whole time, like when I was doing my write-up and everything, I just didn't really think about Rena. And so I think I might actually go with Rena. But yeah, there's an indecisive, definitive answer.
Okay. Mar?
Okay, so from the beginning, I was thinking Rena, like while I was reading the case, just because of what Bryant kind of explained, and I think that the fact that she's already in the company, that they know how she works, so they know what things they need her to work on. I think that that's something positive, just because they know exactly how like what her weaknesses are, what her strengths are, and they like her already. Whereas with Sonia, it's more of a gamble. She's a star, but they've never worked with her. So I don't know. I think they're both good candidates, but I would probably go with Rena.
So I was thinking all along those same lines. I've been in Rena's spot before. So being that person that's been trusted with the position for a little while, but they're not quite sure if you can do it, even though you're doing the job, you're demonstrating that you can do it, but there's just like these preconceived ideas about, maybe your performance in the past, and they're not quite giving you an honest shot at the job. So I really identified with her, so that made me want to choose her. And really the only thing negative that I remember Steven saying about her was that she still relies on some of the other senior analysts, goes to them to ask questions. But if he wants to encourage a team atmosphere and a collaborative environment, then why would he complain about her going to other people for advice? That's what he wants, right? So I didn't think he had really any strong reasons. Yes, I remember, what Daniel said about, some of his counterparts not thinking that she was cut out for it. But it's his department, right? They weren't people in his department that really had any say. From what I remember, I could be remembering that wrong. But beyond Rena, Sonia definitely got my vote. However, it was hard for me to forget about the fact that she's a mom with young kids, and should she really be, putting my own personal value judgment in it, should she really be leaving her kids to travel? So that was kind of hard there. So now that we've all, oh yeah, go ahead.
Can I have a comment though? Sorry, I know you guys all like her a lot. I do too. I almost voted her. But what I remember as well is that his boss, I think his name's John, he didn't ever want him to even promote her. But is that correct? Do you guys remember?
I think that's correct.
And that's the other thing that I'm sort of curious about, is how that is all, because his boss doesn't have any faith in him right now. In him right now, it seems like his boss is like, you're going and hiring these people and you're taking forever, and he's just really worried about that. So I don't know. Just something.
I feel like if I were in Steven's position, I would probably do what I felt like. So for Rena, like the pros for Rena is that to bring Sonia in, they'd want her to have that same, like Sonia wanted that, like to be mentored, kind of. She said she wanted to have those people helping her and like help her make the transition. So it's the exact same thing as Rena asking other people right now until she gets the job, until she gets like the feel of how it's going to be or whatever. So I felt like that's, like Morgan said, there's no case for Steven to say there's anything wrong with that. There really is nothing wrong with that. But then, so on the side of, the boss, if I was in Steven's position, I probably would just do what I felt like was best. And then his main boss obviously isn't going to fire him. He's been doing his job for 20 years or 15 years or whatever it said he was there for, or 4 years. I don't know. But he's just been doing it doing it well for so long that I feel like he would just have to prove to him that his decision was a good one, So, yeah. I mean, there's pressure, that way. But thinking about a mom with 2 kids, your gamble is probably more with Sonia than it is with Rena, especially because Sonia is gonna eventually want to be in her kids' lives, and who knows if that's gonna be sooner than later, So she might decide this isn't for her, kind of thing. So.
Those are some good points.
I don't know.
Can I say something else? I also think that maybe part of Steven's hesitation is the fact that Rena isn't the star that he wants, and so he likes her. He knows that she would be good for the job, and he has that confidence in her. But it's just he could have her who's not a star, or he could have a star. So I think he's just, that's why he's more hesitant.
You know what happened?
I don't think so.
That's unfortunate.
I don't see anywhere that says how this all resolved. But I do know their salary information. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So I have current salary at their present jobs, and then I have what salary they would be making at RSH.
Oh.
So David's current salary is $1.3 million. Mar, I did the same thing when I read that. What?
That's good.
Yeah. So they would bring him in to RSH at 1.5. So he's got that $200,000 raise. A raise of $200,000. That's pretty impressive.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay. So then Gerald is currently making $900,000, and they would bring him in at 1.2 mil if they gave him the job at RSH. Seth is at $700,000, and they'd bring him in at $1 million even. Sonia is currently making $400,000, and they would bring her in at $700,000. Rena is making the least amount of money at $300,000, and it says salary at RSH, including raise, would be $300,000. So it doesn't look like they would be.
No way.
Can you believe that? So
No.
I don't know if that's just saying that's what she's making in
If
the.
I was her, I would be ticked.
Well,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Like, even if they don't end up hiring her, like, just the fact that they wouldn't, give her the raise.
She's not rated
She
as
would
well.
have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah, but she doesn't have their pay structure. It says is based on their certification, and she's not a level 2. Whereas Sonia's been recognized as an up and coming level 2. So but I do agree she should be getting paid at least a little bit more.
At least while she's doing the interim job.
Yes.
Yeah. For
Okay,
sure.
but I just want to know why these big stars are changing for the money. Like, it's not like they need more money,
Well, that's really,
You'd be silly if you could earn more money doing the same thing. You'd be silly not to accept more.
yeah.
Gosh. But they're actively looking for a better job, like, all the time. Like, stars do that, That's insane to me. Like, oh yeah, I'm making a 1.3. I'm really unsatisfied with that, so I need to find a different job.
It's funny.
Yeah. Good point. Hold on just a second.
I don't think unsatisfied is a word. It's dissatisfied. But anyway.
Okay, so after hearing the salary information, does it make you want to change your mind about who gets hired?
I still want, yeah.
Just kidding.
It kind of does for me. I don't want Rena to get hired and have to do all that work for nothing,
Mm.
So for her sake, I would say she shouldn't accept the job unless they give her a raise,
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else?
It makes me almost mad that they would get paid so much more. I mean, it's silly because they would get paid that much even if they move to another firm, but
Yeah.
Anyway.
Any other comments on the pay scale?
Great question. I mean, from a budgeting standpoint, I don't know how much budgeting RSH needs to do. Apparently not very much, but I mean, that's probably the most cost-effective thing to do would be keep Rena on, and then I would assume as she proves her work,
Oh man.
I'd assume that raise would come, and I think she would get up to that 700 range because that's what Stephen mentioned. Is that's what the senior analysts make at RSH anyways. So I think that would come probably pretty quick. I would assume just by that next year she would be increased pretty heavily. But I don't know. I think that's pretty costly to bring on, like a David or anyone like that. So, I don't know. That's
We're willing to, though.
coming out, but whatever.
Do we know how much Peter was getting paid?
No. It's not on the list. I don't remember reading about it. Do you?
It's a good question.
No, I don't.
I would be really surprised if RSH would choose to get a star, knowing that, knowing what we know, reading, other business articles about not hiring stars because their productivity is so much less when they transfer, and the amount of money they're spending on them. You'd think that they would always look for an up and coming, I mean, because you'll get a couple years out of them maybe, but for the long run, I mean, they're going to keep looking for better things, and so for what he's looking for to keep the culture and everything, I'm surprised they're even looking at stars.
Yeah.
Well,
Point.
I don't know. At the same point, they said from the beginning that they're willing to pay a lot of money for a star because they're so focused on the now. And I think that that's a big part of what they're looking for is the next couple of years, because 3 years from now they could hire someone that is up and coming as a junior and have them take the role of the senior when they leave and retire, for example.
And they also talk about how cyclical some of those industries are, and just because something is booming right now, in a few years, it may not be.
Mm.
That might influence it too.
Well, if they don't hire Rena, then I think that they should hire an up-and-coming, in my opinion. Cheaper for them, and they get a couple years out of, the almost 2 slot people. Or
Yeah. So, Peter, do you think Stephen should have let Peter go?
What was your question?
Should Stephen have let Peter go? Because, it talks about how they kind of had an idea, Stephen kind of had an idea that Peter was not happy. He said he reviewed his salary information and realized, his compensation, and realized that they had some room that they could increase his pay, but he decided not to do it.
I think it was a good idea for him not to keep him on, because no matter how much money you give somebody, they're still going to be miserable if they're miserable already. They're not going to be any happier, and he's not going to do his job any better, and so I think it was good for him to let him go.
I think it also depends on how much he was actually getting paid, because because now he might have to, he didn't want to give him the raise, but maybe now he'll be spending even more money with one of these stars,
But he might get more work out of them, because getting a new star, you're upping their pay or whatever, so they're going to work harder. But with Peter,
you have to train them, so you need to take that into account too. I mean, I don't know how long it takes for them to mold the person into who they want them to be and to learn everything they need to for that firm in particular. But
yeah, I don't
know, because Peter already knows everything he needs to know. If they give him a raise, they might just give him, the refresher that he needs.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, because the stars normally know, like when they hire them on, they know that, like the 2 stars that they were talking about had worked with PowerChip before, and so that's why they were looking specifically at them, and so, or I guess one of the reasons that they were good, and so I don't know.
The other thing to consider is that Stephen knew that Peter was looking at other companies, and he knew that several months before Peter quit, which I thought was interesting. They made it seem like he was sort of broadsided by it at first, but then they'll tell you later that he actually knew. So Stephen didn't do anything to try and retain him as an employee, and that's something else I wrote in my paper, is that maybe RSH needs to do a better job of retaining their employees. I personally, based off what I read, I think Stephen intentionally did not try and retain him, and I sort of think that was probably a smart choice, because if Peter was trying to leave, it's pretty hard to convince someone not to.
Well, what stood out to me was when Stephen met with a headhunter. He basically tells him, yeah, we want all of the good things that Peter had, but none of the bad things. And he said, we're trying to build a cooperative, teamwork-oriented culture here. Several people had been distancing themselves from Peter lately. Also, over the years, money became more and more of a motivator to him. It seemed like he didn't care who he stepped on to get involved in projects that would earn him extra cash. So that might have been why Peter didn't bother to give him the raise, even though he could tell from the compensation levels that He had the room. You could have given him the money.
Yeah, I think that's just another. Yeah, I think it was smart for him to let him go, because he would have just kept on doing what he was doing, and it would have torn the team apart even more, and then it wouldn't have been the culture that they wanted at RSH.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this case it was smart, but I agree with Daniel. I think there is part of it where RSH may be able to do a little bit better as motivating people to stay. And I don't know if compensation's the best way to do that. I know it's one very powerful way to do that, but I would hope there'd be other ways to involve them and help them to continue to progress in their career, rather than just paying them more. But yeah, in this case, I think Stephen was correct in not trying to retain Peter for those reasons that Morgan mentioned.
Any other comments on that? What did you guys think about the headhunter, the recruiter who contacted Stephen? Not Craig, the guy he had on retainer, but that other Anita person that he had never talked to before. The question is, should Stephen have talked with the recruiter to ask about Seth? So he didn't
Contact her.
He didn't contact her. She came out of the blue. And when he talked to Craig, he never mentioned Seth to Craig. And in my mind, that would have been important since he trusts Craig. He knows Craig. He's worked with him for a long time. That seemed like it would have been an important thing to do.
I agree. I think it would have been smart just to ask Craig his opinion if he knew anything about Seth or why Seth hadn't been recommended by Craig, because it sounds like Craig's kind of the expert, and it might have been just one more tipping point as far as whether or not to hire Seth. Craig may have been like, oh, I didn't know he was searching. It may have just been an oversight on that part, and maybe Anita and Seth just knew each other, and that's how that contact came about. But, I mean, if they would have hired Seth, and Craig later found out that Stephen had worked through another hiring agency to do that, I think that could have caused some friction and may have disrupted that relationship with Craig. So yeah, I agree. I think that does cause a little bit of a trust issue by not mentioning it to Craig. If Craig is, well, it sounds like Craig's on the retainer fee to do what he's doing for RSH. So if he's already your client that you're working with continually, I think you want to keep good relationships with him.
Any other comments? Does the performance at one firm guarantee high performance at the next firm?
I don't think so. I think that, it is definitely good to know that you're performing well and that you're doing your job at your current firm or at your previous firm. As what is it called? What's Stephen's position? Director?
Yeah.
As a director, whoever you hire into your team, you want to make sure that, that the job they're currently doing, they're doing it well, but that doesn't mean that they'll do your job well. It's just one more check mark that you can do on the hiring process. But you still need, there's still a lot of uncertainties when you hire somebody that you've never worked with before.
Yeah. Any other comments? Jamie, didn't you say you read something about that, about the stars and when they make a change?
Yeah, it's the, let me find it. It's when it says, we observed that top performers in all groups were more like comets than stars. They were blazing successes for a while, but quickly faded out when they left one company for another. So that's just, I feel like when you do a lot of switching, you kind of get burnt out, but at the same time, it's less about the company and it's more about you, and so you become more selfish. And so, kind of like how Peter started becoming, worried about the money instead of the the people he's working with and the company altogether. And so I feel like that has a lot to do with it. So it won't. So it's kind of hard once you take someone from a different firm, they're more likely, in my opinion, to be more selfish, not as hardworking, more worried about the money in themselves, what the company can do for them instead of what they can do for the company. So.
Agreed. There was also some comments made about, just the different types, the ways that you would go about doing your job. You might do the same job in each company, but in David's firm, they had very prescriptive ways of filling out reports and very specific formatting things. And you could be super great in one company and just not be able to work under those, very specific requirements or expectations. And so that might be, just the way that the job is carried out at that other place might have an impact on you. And then I'm supposed to read, or we're supposed to discuss, there was a handout for me, what they call, it's different types of human capital. General human capital, strategic human capital, industry human capital, relationship human capital, and company-specific human capital. And it's talking about how portable those skills are, how well they'll transfer with you from one company or one job to the next. Says general human capital encompasses the management skills to gather, cultivate, and deploy financial, technical, and human resources. It includes leadership and decision-making capabilities as well as functional expertise. This type of human capital is highly portable. Executives must develop new general management human capital, such as interacting with investors in Wall Street as well as with boards when they become CEO, when they take on any new job with expanded capabilities. Strategic human capital is expertise gained from experience in situations that require specific strategic skills, such as cutting costs, driving growth, or maneuvering in cyclical markets. This type of human capital is highly portable to firms facing similar strategic challenges. Experience in growth environment, for instance, tends to translate well to other such environments. Industry human capital is the technical, regulatory, customer, or supplier knowledge unique to an industry. Industry-specific knowledge acquired in a company that operates under one type of regulations, those of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, for example, or the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is not useful in an industry that operates under a different set of rules. Similarly, the technical know-how that comes from medical, engineering, or scientific training in some industries probably won't be as useful in less technical industries, just as experience selling to large business customers is not as useful in a retail industry setting. So as I'm reading these, I'm sort of picking up on how some of our applicants or our candidates, how they sort of fall into these areas. Like the company-specific human capital, I think that's going to be RENA. Includes knowledge about routines and procedures, corporate culture, and informal structures and systems and processes that are unique to a company. This type of human capital is the least portable of the five, but CEOs, unlike the rank and file, are uniquely positioned to capitalize on this knowledge by implementing familiar systems and processes in their new firms. So even though it wouldn't be portable for RENA to take that elsewhere, it's still really applicable where she's at. So, and then there's one more, relationship human capital. It's that portion of a manager's effectiveness stemming from established relationships with other team members or colleagues. Moving with other team members or colleagues can help general managers achieve a high level of performance at new networks and social capital in their new firms, which they can only do over time. So wasn't there one of our candidates who asked about bringing his whole team with him?
Oh yeah, he's like, I like a couple.
Wasn't it David?
Oh, sorry, I think it's David, the old guy. I didn't realize my microphone was muted.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was David. So that was just some interesting things to think about. Okay, so that is the end of the things that were the assigned discussion points. So I guess in summary, Stephen maybe had some, I think it's maybe a lack of dedication or commitment to, like you said, the culture was really important to him and teamwork was really important to him, yet he was entertaining hiring guys that obviously did not support that, like Gerald, who fired his person right in the middle of a presentation. The fact that he didn't just shut him down right there and say, you're obviously not right for us. He was just so caught up in the fact that he was a high performer and a star and all that other stuff. I think that shows maybe some problems with that Stephen needs to address with himself. But we all agreed that there were definitely people that we would consider as who should be the top candidate. And I think that they would probably be successful either with Sonia or Rena. Yeah, any other last comments?
Oh, it just came on me.
I didn't catch what you said there. So that's it. And unfortunately, they don't provide the answer. So we don't know who got hired.
Such a bummer.
That's the worst part about these cases, not knowing the answer. Because you get so attached that you almost want to, you want to know what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. So I don't know if there is an answer somewhere. Daniel, maybe when you email him, you could ask him if we know the answer, and maybe it was somewhere and I missed it, but I went through all the materials for the group leader for the week and I didn't see anything.
We could email it, President Clark or President Gilbert. I'm sure one of them wrote this case anyways. So.
All right. Well, do we have anything else we need to decide?
I don't think so.
Okay. Who's our group leader for next week? I'm F. Who's after F?
Daniel.
Sorry, mine was on mute. Yep, so it's me next week.
Yep.
I believe so. Yep.
Okay.
I texted everyone a link to this.
You what?
I got that. Thank you.
I texted everyone a link to this video.
Oh, okay, great.
So you'll post it, is that right?
Yeah, I post it. Yeah, I post it to the link. To the discussion board. That's it.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks everybody. I think we're done.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you next week.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you for getting it all organized for us. That's a big help.
I'm glad to do it.
It is.
All right, bye guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.